if you undercharge any service, wash and fold, speaking, anything, if you do it too much, people don't see the value in it. Because if you're a $500 speaker versus somebody doing it for $2,000 or versus 10,000, well, how good can you be if you're willing to do it for $500?
Welcome to the Planet Laundry Podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we chat with Mark Csordos, the owner of Washing Well Laundromat, based in New Jersey. Mark is a serial entrepreneur who has owned various businesses through the years. In addition, Mark is the author of the book Business Lessons for Entrepreneurs, 35 Things I Learned Before the Age of 30. And he's currently the host of his own YouTube channel. In this episode, Mark discusses what he looks for in a great laundry location, the keys to being a successful laundromat operator, and the leading issues he sees impacting the industry in the coming months. The Planet Laundry Podcast is brought to you by Planet Laundry, the magazine of the Coin Laundry Association. This is the Planet Laundry Podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Planet Laundry Magazine, Bob Nieman. Today I'm with Mark Csordos, the owner of Washing Well Laundromat, based in Matawan, New Jersey. Mark's a serial entrepreneur who has owned a number of businesses through the years, including a mystery shopper business, which featured such clients as Pizza Hut, Manhattan Bagel, the New Jersey State Lottery, and a large regional grocery chain, among others. In addition, Mark is the author of the book Business Lessons for Entrepreneurs, 35 Things I Learned Before the Age of 30, and he's currently the host of his own YouTube channel. Hey, Mark, thanks for being here today. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I've got to ask right off the bat, if you could you share a couple of those business lessons that you learned before you turned 30? And do they still apply today?
Well, I was trying to think, what applies to laundromats, and a lot of them do. And I think one of them is to be careful working with family. I do have two kids that are on the payroll. But what I learned was, a lot of people, especially in a small business like a laundromat, you might be inclined to hire your family, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to make sure that they're actually doing the job that you would expect of an outside employee. So I tell my kids that, if you don't do it, I'll fire you. I mean, I love you, but I'm going to bring in somebody who's going to do the job that I need. You're on the clock, you're on the payroll. I expect certain things out of you, just like if you were working for a stranger. So I think it's having those expectations with family. Another thing is, I think that even if you own a small laundromat, you still need to have a business plan. Okay, it doesn't have to be super fancy. I think sometimes people get intimidated by business plans because, they think about the one that they have to submit to the bank, and it's 20 pages with all, 90% of that information you don't need if you're not giving it to people who have no idea about you. But you should have a plan, for what you're doing in the next 1, 2, 3 years. So those would be the two of the biggest things that I would.
No, that's great advice, Mark. And certainly the business plan is not something you should just put together and then throw in a drawer and forget about it, right? That's kind of it's an evolving, living document, right?
Well, I used to do a class on entrepreneurship, and I would tell them it's a living, breathing document. I have it on my desktop. And, I refer to it every month, especially when I update the numbers, but I also look at okay, well, what did I have planned coming down the road? And is that still part of the plan? It's obviously, plans change. I call the business plan like a roadmap. Sometimes there's detours, sometimes there's a new road built. It's a new opportunity. So It's not something that, is set, etched in stone. It's a living, breathing document that you use to guide your business.
Very good. Very good. Well, briefly, if you could, what is your professional background before getting into the laundromat business? If you could bring us up to speed a little bit.
Well, I did the mystery shopping business for several years. And what that is we would get paid to evaluate other companies' customer service from a customer's point of view. Uh, we did that for several years. Had some success with it. I was lucky enough to, be in the New York Times. Believe it or not, I made Vogue magazine. Entrepreneur. I sold that business. Then I authored my book. Uh, I did run into some health issues. So I would say there was probably like a 2 decade, in the wilderness as far as, working for other people. I would have fits and starts with trying to start my own business. Uh, so, last year I wound up buying the washing well, and it's been very good so far.
Wonderful. Well, tell me, how did the mystery shopper experience help you now in your new laundromat profession in the business? How has there been any carryover?
Well, I try to look at everything I do through the customer's lens. I think a lot of people, when they have a business, they look at it through their lens out. I don't really care if I have to do extra work or have a little extra expense. I want to know exactly what makes my location, whether it was a restaurant or anything, it happens to be a laundromat, but what makes it best for them? What makes it easiest for them? And try to build from that out. So it's always customer focused.
Right, right. So the laundromat industry found its way into the picture for you last year, or
Well,
how?
it had been on the radar for a while.
Okay,
At one point, I started doing my homework on laundromats, and just as a family, we weren't ready to do it yet. And so I kind of, put the information in a drawer. I forgot about it. I went to work for somebody else, and I thought, okay, you know what? I'm not going to own any more businesses. This job is decent. I'll ride it out as long as I can. Well, I ran into some health problems. I got hospitalized, and I was on leave for like 12 weeks. And I said, why am I giving so much to these people? They don't care about me. And, I said, I had two business ideas, before this that I had kind of shelved. And one of them, was the laundromat, which my wife was completely, in on. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take this time that I'm not at work and I'm just going to dive right into everything. Anything I can digest, videos or seminars, articles. I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can, about this industry, which
right.
is exactly what I did.
hmm hmm What particularly attracted you to the laundry business?
I think it's something everybody needs. I mean, everybody needs maybe not a laundromat, but you need to wash your clothes. It's a good, stable business model. And a lot of times, and I don't want to call laundromats like not sexy, but I know to a lot of people, being like a tech entrepreneur and you're interviewed on CNBC, oh, that's cool. Owning like an unsexy business, garbage collection, landscaping, laundry mats, I mean, you're not going to have like groupies, but it's a good business. People need it all the time. They need it, you got to collect the garbage every week, every summer there's 10,000 landscapers out there, so it might
hmm
not be glamorous and land you on the cover of Forbes, but it's a good business that everyone needs.
Right, right. So you made that decision to get into it. How did you eventually get involved in the industry, and who helped you along the way?
I didn't really have any help along the way, but I did try to get as much information as I possibly could from any source that I could. The way that I found my location, I started like many people. You go online and you look for laundromats for sale. The problem that I had was, unfortunately, and hopefully there's no brokers watching this, but I didn't have much success dealing with like the brokers. They wouldn't get back to you. The information was extremely limited at best. Most of them didn't really know about. I knew more about laundromats than they did, just from doing the research. So at one point, I was very discouraged, and I thought, I don't know, this probably isn't going to happen. And I don't know who suggested it. I'll give the credit to my wife, but I don't really remember. They're like, why don't you just send out a letter? You know, just saying like, you're interested in buying a laundromat. So I Googled laundromats like in a 10-mile radius of my house. And I literally sent out like a one paragraph. I didn't know the people's names. I just sent it attention owner. I'm looking to get into the business. If you're interested in selling or you know somebody, give me a call. And to my surprise, I had like four places call. One
Wow.
wanted too much money. One couldn't pull the trigger. And one I eventually wound up buying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you go about finding a great location? I mean, what is your process? And maybe you just explain that, but what do you look for, and how do you go about it?
Well, one of the things that I would look for is just, I guess the first place I'd go is, how far away as an owner do you want to be from your home? So for me, like I did look at a laundromat. I went and I saw it and it was an hour away. And, when I was driving there, I was thinking, nah, this isn't going to work. Because, what if I get a phone call at dinner time? Oh, the coin machine's broken, or there's, this isn't working. How am I going to get there? So for me personally, I'm just looking in a certain radius. And what I'd like to do for me would be to, not have like one here and then one here, and maybe more in a grouping. So you can start to create a small chain. I'm actually looking at one this time with a partner that's about 3.5 miles from my current store. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. 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 Perfect. Perfect. Well, in your opinion, what are some of the leading issues for laundry owners today, and in the coming months as we flip over to the new year?
I think one thing is inflation, the high cost of everything, including, getting replacement equipment. That's nobody's fault. That's just, how the world is. I think another problem that I've come across is really just getting the word out. I mean, everybody obviously knows what a laundromat is. Okay. And, you live in an apartment, they don't have a good facility, you come to a laundromat. Your washer and dryer breaks. Okay, I got to go. Where's the nearest laundromat? You go use it for a week until you're okay. But a lot of people don't realize about the pickup and delivery and the wash and fold. So I know a lot of people spend money on, advertising, so if somebody, Google searches it, they will come up, and that's great. But a lot of people don't even know to search it in the first place. Yeah, because my wife, when we got into this, she's like, "Wow, I wish I had known about that." I have three kids. The youngest one is 18, but at one point, they're all in activities. She and I both have a job, and the laundry just gets higher and higher and higher. So it might have been nice to occasionally just like, look, I'm gonna take this off my plate. You guys go wash and fold it. But if you don't know it exists, you can't be looking for it. So I find part of what I have to do is just to go out and educate people. Like, did you even know we could do this for you?
Right. The customer doesn't know what they don't know.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's marketing and it's education, and absolutely. So that's certainly an issue, especially as more and more operators get involved in the full service aspect of this industry.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. What's your favorite aspect of the laundry business now that you're in it a year or so? What do you enjoy the most?
I like dealing with the customers. I think it's pretty neat. I mean, laundromats are one of the I guess the few industries where you actually have a lot of downtime in a sense, with the customer. Because even if you're washing and, you're doing the wash and fold part of it, I mean, you can still chat with somebody who's, waiting 25 minutes for a dryer. You get to know a lot about them. You get to know them on a personal level. A lot of our wash and fold customers, if I walk in, like I recognize their laundry bags, you know? So I said,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
Brandon was here. Okay, he wants to get picked up for Sunday morning, right? Okay." So I think that's really the cool part. There's and a lot of people are creatures of habit, so you see the same people at the same time. There's one gentleman I open like on Thursdays. I'll open my store and I'll do some of the paperwork, the coins and stuff. And there's one guy who's almost always there, like waiting for me. And I've joked with him that I'm going to give him a set of keys because he knows how to open up. Just put the chairs out. You can open up, turn the water on, the lights, and I'll come in around 8:30. So that's kind of like a running joke. So I think that's what I like. I like really you get to know people because everywhere else you might have a very short interaction, but here you can actually have a conversation even while you're doing your work.
Right, right. And laundries are very much a community-based business. As you know, you have I know you've got a little library in there as
Yes.
far as giving back to the community and giving something for the kids to do when they're in the store. So again, it all goes along the same lines of that and getting to know your customers, doesn't it?
Well, you do see a lot of that community because we do have apartments, behind us. And
Yeah.
like on a Saturday morning, they'll walk in and they all know each other. And I've always been amazed at like how many people like they recognize each other. They don't live in the apartments, but I don't know, everybody's obviously in town. And they recognize each other at the laundromat. And sometimes, I've seen customers outside. I was at the grocery store and I saw one customer there, and then I went to like the Dollar Tree and I
Yeah.
saw him there. And I'm like, look, where are you going next? Because I won't go there, you know? So,
Right.
yes, you're very much a part of the community.
Yeah, no, very much so. Well, what segment of your business is performing the strongest right now for you? I mean, we had talked about wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery and all those different segments. What's working best for you right now, and why do you think that is?
Right now, a wash and fold is working the best for us. Uh, we are picking up little by little in pickup and delivery. I think with the pickup and delivery, it's just a matter of people knowing that you do it, and that'll keep picking up. Uh, the coin part of it, I think it's pretty steady. This location has been there 20 years. So it's not like a surprise to anybody. If you've lived in the area, you know where it is at least. So the coin part, but is steady. But the wash and fold is really the solid part. And then I think the pickup and delivery, just as more people get used to it. I mean, because I was talking to somebody in the industry recently, and he was mentioning that Uber has done a lot to like train people, and the DoorDash, because there's really nothing that you can't have pick up and delivered. You get your Burger King sent to your house, Walgreens delivered to your house. Amazon has something there in 5 minutes. So they've done a lot to help train people that if you want something picked up and delivered, it's possible. That we just have to get them to connect that to also do your laundry.
Right, it's what the consumer expects nowadays, and it's just again branching it into laundry, as you said.
Right.
hmm hmm Now you're also writing a second book now, which is due out later this year, I believe. Tell me about that.
I'm hoping to have it out by end of March, early April. It's called the Laundromat Bible. And what I want to do is to take somebody all the way through the entire process from, hey, I heard laundromats are good to get into, but I don't know anything about them. So it's going to go from, okay, where do you find a place? What are you looking for? How do you evaluate? What is a good price to purchase a laundromat for? How do you find a laundromat, the lease, all those things. Then we're going to go into the very first day that you own it and turn the keys and what it's like. And then the second half of the book is going to be actually running the business, taking care of the customers, getting a staff. How do you market it? Besides just Facebook ads and that type of thing. So how do you market it? How do you do pickup and delivery? How do you do wash and fold? So even if you own a laundromat, I want to make the book useful to you
Hmm.
also.
Right. It sounds like a very useful book, and I'm looking forward to reading it when it comes out. Tell me about your writing process. How does that work? When do you write? How do you? I don't know. What is that process like for you?
Well, I pretty much, for myself, I draw an outline. And I think for this, it's a little easier because I really I'm just going through all the steps in order. Uh, I write what I would consider the easier parts first because some of them also, I quote sources and I want to get more information on them. Something like customer service. I've done it my whole life. I feel very comfortable on that. Other things, I refer to like the CLA. They have the industry survey. So I'll refer to a lot of other information. As far as finding the time to write, because I have spoken to a lot of people that want to write books on 1,000 different topics. You just have to make the time because there is no good. You're always going to be busy. You're not always going to be inspired. And I think about what Billy Joel said, and I remember this way back when I started writing. He treats it as a songwriting as a job, and he just 9 a.m. or whatever time he starts, he goes to the piano. And just like, we would punch a clock at whatever job we had, well, that's what he does. He doesn't wait till like, hey, I'm inspired. Let me go write Piano Man. He
Right.
goes to the piano, and I mean, some days you write a lot, some days you don't write much. But you have to consider, for anybody who wants to write a book, you have to kind of consider it. Okay, this is my job, and I have to work on it every day.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. If you wait for the perfect time, you'll never get started.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in addition to that, if you didn't have enough to do, you've also launched a YouTube channel. What kind of content do you have on there? What can viewers expect?
Well, right now we only have a few videos, but I want to make it maybe like 60-40 laundromat and then 40% entrepreneurship. I also want to do interviews with people both in the industry and outside the industry because I think that we can learn a lot, outside. For example, I have a lady that I'd like to interview later in the year, but she's going to be working with me on, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, I'm not strong on that, and I realize anybody can set up an Instagram and anybody can set up a Facebook page. It takes 30 seconds. But then there's a difference between just setting it up and, like 8 people follow you to where it actually is working for you, you know. So I would love to have her on because anybody who owns a laundromat, could learn from that. So I want it to be that combination of a laundromat, but also, entrepreneurship. Maybe even some topics from the book, like working with family and what to be, careful about. I mean, one of the big mistakes that I made in the mystery shopping business is that once it got big enough, I convinced my then fiance, now wife, to quit her job and work with me. That was a big mistake because at the time we were both in our 20s. She wasn't ready to do that job. She could do it now. She couldn't do it back then. And we get into a habit sometimes of hiring people because we're related to them, and we have a different relationship. But what you need to ask is, if I wasn't related to this person, would I still hire them? Okay, and that's what I do with my kids. Like, if you aren't going to do the job, I'm not
Hmm.
paying you to, like,
Right.
do your homework there. I expect
Right.
you to take care of customers first. You're going to wash, you're going to fold, you're going to sweep. If you're not going to do that, I'll find somebody that will. So
Right.
it'll cover those kind of topics also.
Oh, very interesting. Great stuff. Well, hey, Mark, do you have a business philosophy? Have you developed one over the years?
I think take care of the customer first, and then pretty much everything else will take care of itself. I've always been, very customer focused. And then and I know there's been books written about it, but then your customers are your biggest salespeople. I remember doing a talk once for a grocery chain that we did mystery shopping for. And, I got brought in. They were having like one of their annual meetings, and they just wanted me to talk for a half hour on their competition, because everything is, pat yourself on the back, how great you are. And then she kind of wanted like a dose of reality. Like, we don't live in a bubble. These other people are having these same meetings and things like that. And when she got up to introduce me, and nobody else knew who I was. I worked with this one lady, and I think she was like right under the CEO. And she goes, when I get goosebumps when I read like his letter, like to me, because everything is we. It's not like, most consultants, like, you need to do this, you need to do that. I wrote, and I didn't even think about it, but I was like, we need to do better, so I mean, she got me several customers. I mean, she actually got me my largest customer ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, it was taking care of the customer, and then the other things you can fix them. They'll fall into place. You're going to be okay if you take care of the people that are paying the bills.
Perfect. Very good. Right. Well, hey, in your experience, when a small business fails, laundromat or otherwise, what are the most common reasons for that failure?
I think one reason is that they're undercapitalized. Especially like if you want to go into laundromats and you're like, oh, okay, I'll fix this up, I'll fix this up, and then you realize, oh, you want to retool all this, it's going to cost you 125,000. Oh, I didn't think about that ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for a lot of small businesses, it goes back to not having a plan. You want to get away from having, let's say, a boss so badly that you go out, you either start a business or you buy one, and then you didn't really think about the next steps. What is this going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Like I have my business plan. Like I know like when I want to start, replacing equipment, how much of that equipment, when I want to increase prices again. I haven't set a price, based on the competition, but I know when I want to go back and reevaluate that. So
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they jump in. Hey, I own a business now. I don't have a boss. I don't have to listen to anybody. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, what's your plan though?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't really thought it out that well. Well, your competition is, so you better have one.
Right. 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 I think those are a couple of the biggest reasons for sure. Hey, personally, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your business life, and what did you maybe learn from it?
I think probably the biggest mistake in my business life is undercharging. A lot of people, especially in the beginning, they don't charge what they're worth. I remember I got a speaking engagement with Volvo, their construction division in North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. And I
Yeah.
was just so happy and amazed that anybody would let me speak to them. Uh, so I had a meeting with the CEO, and it was pretty much going to be a slam dunk. He just kind of wanted details. So I was thinking, hey, look, you know what? I'll take $500 for a day, you know?
Right.
That was like 20 something years ago, right? I'll take that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was thinking, yeah, but you know what? This is Volvo. They can afford it. And I said, I'm going to charge them $1,000. And then I drove up to the building and I'm like, holy bleep, this is huge.
Right.
So I wound up charging them $2,000 and they didn't even blink, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And that's when I started to learn that it's like, first of all, if you undercharge any service, wash and fold, speaking, anything, if you do it too much, people don't see the value in it. Because if you're a $500 speaker versus somebody doing it for $2,000 or versus 10,000, well, how good can you be if you're willing to do it for $500? So they don't see the value. So I think like when I did the mystery shopping, again, I was like 24 years old when I'm pitching like CEOs and business people. I was just so happy that you would actually take a meeting with me. I couldn't believe it, right? I would give the service away. And it wasn't until later that I realized, I'm working 50% harder or whatever the number is to make the same amount of money than if I just charged what the going rate was. I mean, I'm giving you a bargain. I understand that sometimes people will, undercharge a little to get the ball rolling. But once the ball is rolling, you got to charge, what it's worth. Otherwise, you're just working harder for less money, and that's not why anybody goes into business.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I think that's certainly probably a universal mistake across all businesses. Right. Yeah.
They can be, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you turn for business advice these days?
Well, I have done a lot on LinkedIn, so I've made a lot of like contacts. I do a lot of coffee chats to really get to know people, and
Mm-hmm.
this way, they can bounce things off me. I can bounce things off them. Another place that I turn to is my wife. My wife is very cautious, um, and I'll put her like all these different ideas. And if she actually really likes one, then I think I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Because her first reaction is usually, yeah, but and that's good because sometimes, if one person's a dreamer, you need somebody else to kind of like, reel them back in. But when I
Right.
share an idea with her and she's like, yeah, I like that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now I'm on to
Mm-hmm.
something. Now I got something to work with.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's who I look for.
Sure. Yeah. No, very good. Well, what, again, in your opinion, what specific traits does it take to be a successful laundromat owner these days?
I think the ability to really promote yourself because I see that missing in a lot, not just laundromats, but just in
Yeah.
businesses in general.
Mm-hmm.
We held a networking function where we were part of the Chamber of Commerce, at our store.
Mm-hmm.
And I went around to all the stores, in my center. And, just to introduce myself, just to invite them. They know the laundromat's there. I don't have to really explain that, but I'm amazed at how many small businesses they never leave that little box that they're in. I met one gentleman who owned a UPS store, and I said, "Oh yeah, we're by the the alternate ending. It's a restaurant. It's a good landmark." And he goes, "I don't know where that is." And I go, "Well, if you just go out to the light and make a left, it's like I don't know half a mile." He goes, "Oh, I never go that way." And my mind was just blown. It's like you're a UPS store. You deal with small businesses. There are literally 100 small businesses on that street between that light and 2 miles where the supermarket is. How do you not? You don't even know what is out there. You don't know what exists. So I think one of the big things that I try to tell any small business, and I do for myself, is get out there. I try to do as much as I possibly can to be visible to
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Hey, what are you looking to accomplish in 2024? What are your goals?
Well, my calendar's full, and I'm glad, and because I really have bought 150% into the laundromat industry. I love it. It's good people. I'm developing a new website. I want the book to come out. Obviously, the YouTube channel. I'm looking at this second location with a partner, and I'd say it's 50-50 right now, but I would
Okay.
love for that to happen. So there's a lot on my plate, and also I'm looking forward this year to attending some of the CLA events. Um,
Right.
I don't think I personally didn't feel I was like totally ready. Last year, I had a learning
Mm-hmm.
curve and things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, I'm really looking forward to the events.
Right. Perfect. Hey, Mark, that was everything I had. I want to give you the last word. Anything that maybe I didn't bring up or I didn't ask, or any advice that you'd like to share? Just anything you'd like to get out there that maybe we haven't covered yet. Yeah.
The one thing I would say if you're new trying to get into the business is to slow down and take your time. A lot of people, they're very eager, they find a place, do your due diligence. That's one thing that I wish that I had done better. And that's, I spent a lot of time in the book on due diligence. I went over the financials very, very hard and the demographics and things like that. The one place that I wish I had done a better job was on the equipment. Okay. So don't rush through. I know people are eager to get going and you got a million ideas. Don't rush through the process. And then when you get in the store, take 6 to 8 weeks just to learn the store. Again, I know you have all these ideas and I'm sure they're brilliant, but I made so many mistakes in the beginning because it's like, okay, fine. I watched the videos, I read the articles and stuff. Here's the keys. Now you own a laundromat. And it's like, wow, how do I use the register? Because we have a POS. So you got to learn the POS system. The one day I did something, it was so embarrassing. It was like my second day in the store alone. A lady goes to use the machine and she's like, there's no water coming out. And another guy says, yeah, I got the same problem. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, I don't know what So long story short, they had turned the water off so the pipes wouldn't freeze because it's December in New Jersey. I forgot to turn the water on. So there's a lot of those little stuff that you just got to get used to and learn, and then you can go out and use all of your brilliant ideas. But get to know your store first and your customers.
Right. Take your time and get acclimated. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's great advice and probably a great place to leave it. Hey, Mark, thank you so much for your time. This has been a pleasure to chat with you, and I learned a lot, and I'm sure that our listeners did as well. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. I enjoy it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on our podcast today. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to Planet Laundry at PlanetLaundry.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.